Welcome, everyone. Glad to see at least your names on the screen here. I'm Theo, and I'm going to be leading the mindfulness broadcast this morning because Tiffany is out there kicking butt and taking names. So um, I am going to warn you that I'm just coming off of COVID, so I may speak even slower than normal. I know I'm a pretty mellow guy to start with, but COVID makes me even more mellow. So, when I was thinking of what it was that I wanted to present this morning, I was actually thinking of COVID and that type of challenge that just shows up on our doorstep uninvited, and how we relate to those types of challenges. And I was reminded of a book that I'd read a while ago called Radical Acceptance. Um, Here's the book. There we go. My Radical Acceptance. It's by this woman named Tara Brach, who I've studied with, who's really awesome. If you haven't seen her work out there, I suggest you take a look. It's Tara, and Brach is Brach. So I wanted to kick us off with a story that's fairly well known within the mindfulness community. You may have heard it, or maybe not. And it has to do with a monk from, I think, a few centuries ago, maybe more than that. His name was Atisha, and he's a relatively famous monk in India. And he's invited to go to Tibet to teach. And he learns, as he's considering his travels, that the people in Tibet are very kind, very thoughtful, very flexible in the way that they deal with people, and just generally grounded. And he thinks to himself, well, this will never do. So he goes out and finds a Bengali tea boy to accompany him on this journey to Tibet. And this tea boy is basically about as rascally as you can imagine. He's known for, in his tea ceremonies, spilling tea, breaking dishes, making offhand comments, annoying people. And the reason that Atisha decides to bring this tea boy on board is because he feels that without someone like this tea boy constantly at his side, he won't be tested. He won't need to grow his patience. He won't need to grow his compassion. He won't need to grow his capacity to deal with life as it shows up in all of its challenging forms. So he brings this tea boy along with him. And as you can imagine, all the chaos that ensues is basically is what he signed up for. And as a result, he's essentially just exercising his mindfulness muscle, if you can think of it that way. So how can we utilize that idea in our own lives? And how can we, through the practice of mindfulness, increase our ability to shift the relationship that we have to the things that we don't get to control? And I'm reminded of another book. I haven't read this book, so I can't recommend it one way or another, but the title of the book is The Obstacle is the Way. And it's a book on Stoicism. And I've studied Stoicism a little bit, not a lot, but I do understand Stoicism to be the foundational element of a lot of what is really popular these days in the form of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's really just a form of reframing how it is that we look at the challenges that we face in life. And so, returning to this idea of radical acceptance, um, you know, I can look back at my life and a lot of my earlier challenges and see just a lot of evidence of flailing, a lot of evidence of feeling like the victim of circumstances, spending a lot of energy, emotional, physical, any kind of energy I could summon, attempting to change things that were not changeable, to control things that were out of my control. And so with mindfulness, we have this opportunity to just start to be with and accept things that aren't always really that pleasant, you know? Um, and this kind of brings us again to this concept of equanimity, right? The idea that we can be with both the good and the bad in equal measure. So today I thought we could, unpack that a little bit and also have a little practice. Um, and I'm losing my train of thought because I have COVID brain. Um, but with the Tara Brach's work in radical acceptance, um, she's talking about a lot of the fundamentals within the mindfulness practice. The first of which is equanimity, as we just kind of spoke about. And the other is something that she calls a trance of unworthiness. And this can be just kind of the discursive thoughts that we have in our minds about our own place in the world. And this idea that something needs to change in order for us to feel okay about ourselves. And I don't know if anybody can kind of relate to this, but like this idea that like, well, if I only just solve this part about my life, if I only just change this little aspect of myself, and somehow I'll now feel complete and lovable, and all the puzzle pieces will fall into place, and we'll just follow the Yellow Brick Road from there on. And um, and that trance that we can get ourselves into um, can be really exhausting, and so that's another kind of opportunity for us to turn towards some of the challenges, both the way that we're facing ourselves, but also the way that we're relating to the challenges that we don't get to control. And oftentimes those come in the form of other people, other human beings. Like I would imagine that a lot of you probably have your own version of the T-boy who is causing chaos in your lives, and probably uninvited, right? Probably it's not that you went and chose someone who is difficult. They probably just showed up in your life one way or another. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend. It could be a child. I have a friend who he and his wife adopted quite a few years ago, and they adopted from a country where there was just a lot of trauma, a lot of chaos. And unfortunately, this child has just gone completely off the rails, and there's nothing that these parents can do about it. And there's a lot of parents in this situation, right? For whatever reason, um, you are witnessing this person who you love more than anything in a loop of self-destruction. And so this is kind of the ultimate form of radical acceptance, is the opportunity to just find a way to be with, and it's not going to be graceful a lot of the time, at least from my own experience, find a way to be with things as they are, And there's a phrase within mindfulness that I find really useful, and it comes in the form of a question. And the question is, and this too? And the answer is, and this too. So, with that, I would like to offer a short practice. I would invite you all to settle into whatever position you are in now, whatever seated position or otherwise. I would invite you to have a tall spine and a loose body. Imagine you're a coat hanging on a coat hanger or coat pole. Oh, my brain. So you're upright and relaxed. And I invite you to make contact with the ground underneath you. Notice the stability that it offers. You're being held in place. And then I would invite you to make contact with your breath. Notice the rhythm that naturally occurs, breathing in and breathing out. And then I would invite you to call to mind the circumstance in your life that is challenging. It could be with a person, it could be something to do with work or money. It could have to do with the situation that we're in culturally at large. There's a lot of intense emotions and opinions. The world's a pretty intense place right now. So call to mind something that's in your world that's affecting you. And just trust that you can be with this circumstance in this moment. And bring a sense of curiosity and non-judgment to this circumstance. You could also inquire, what are the characteristics that this circumstance is asking me to produce? What is this circumstance asking me to become in order to overcome whatever challenges I might face? How do I need to grow? It could also be helpful to ask the question, what support do I need? What relationships need to be nourished in order for me to navigate this circumstance or this challenge successfully? What opportunity for connection is present in this challenge, in this circumstance? Just get a felt sense of how these questions and this relationship to whatever this circumstance is are resonating in your physical body, in your mental space. I know that with practice, you are increasing your capacity to be with life as it exists rather than life as you wish it were, which is a superpower ultimately. And when you're ready, I invite you to slowly return to your physical space. If you had your eyes closed, I invite you to slowly open them and reorient yourself. And um, return to Friday morning. I really appreciate everybody being here, and I'm happy to stay after if anybody has any questions or comments. Otherwise, I'm wishing you a lovely Friday and a lovely weekend.